Welcome to Open My Gripe with Jeffery
and Jay Rice,
the place where serious and silly complaints come to chat.
Open My Gripe is a weekly podcast dedicated to hearing your gripes, grievances, and opinions on any and all topics.
Every episode, Jay and I will have the opportunity to get to the bottom of the issues which are lingering on the back of your mind and engage in order to create constructive conversation, using a combination of lighthearted comedy and well-formed logic.
If you feel like we are wrong, inappropriate, or biased, then call in, email, or tweet, and let your voice be heard. You can email us at openmicgripe@gmail.com or tweet us at openmicgripe, both of those, open mic gripes being one word. So jump on in and gripe on the open mic with Jay Rice and Jeffery Ide. Hey, welcome back, Jeffrey.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. About yourself?
I can't complain. I had a nice, restful weekend. A lot of free time on my hands, and Jay is giving me a scowling look.
Yeah, a lot of free times. I didn't have any free time because I did a lot of research for this episode today.
Jay is certainly a diligent, hardworking bastard. But...
Yeah, especially when it comes to watching movies for my research.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're supposed to watch movies.
Yes, we're supposed to watch movies.
Okay, in all seriousness, we're planning on and focusing on a topic today, which I like very much.
Because we switched our instead of calling them episodes, if people haven't picked up on them,
right,
we're calling them gripes. And I thought to myself, what better gripe than Gripe 007 than James Bond?
Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So we agreed to watch a number of films.
And one of us followed through on that.
The other was incredibly busy doing humanitarian work and trying to make the world a better place.
And then now just talking shit out of his ass right now. I have a feeling that you're playing video games, masturbating, and eating.
And
I don't find that making the world a better place.
I'm not going to deny any of those things.
Yeah, so I got the research done.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, though, I'd like to start, as usual, with our hypothetical question.
Alrighty. And again, just so everybody knows, this is a question that I have not heard before, so let's see how this goes.
Jay, I need to know this in order to understand you as a human being a little bit better.
Okay.
If every time you had sex, it was 10 times as pleasurable, but you had to have sex every single day of your life or you would die, would you accept that?
Okay, so every time I have sex, it's 10 times as pleasure, like it's multiplying every time.
It's well, no, I mean just in general, it's 10 times. It's not going to get, logarithmic.
Exponentially. Well, I was going to say, if it got exponentially larger, one of these times I'm going to die from pleasure overload. Like, there's no way you could handle it.
Straight up 10% for the rest of your life. 10%, 10 times. So every time you have sex is 10 times what it would normally be, and in terms of pleasure. But you'd have to have sex for every single day until you die. Wait. You have to have sex every single day or you will die.
But now, does this... I guess I need to know some of the stipulations on this, because I know previously you think having sex includes masturbation. So, I mean...
Oh, god damn, I think I just shot myself in the foot.
Well, so, I mean, that's what I mean. So, do I have to have sex every day, or does masturbation included?
Intercourse. With something.
See, okay, I feel like you're setting me up to put me in a bad position here, because what if there's nobody around for me to have sex with?
That would be a constraint.
And if there's somebody that's not consensual, you're setting me up. You're setting me up here.
No. It just means you have to be you have to receive consent. I mean, you should if you're a good moral human being.
Well, good or moral? If I don't have sex, I'm gonna die.
Well, that could be.
So, like, that's my line every time. Like, sorry, lady, this is life or death.
Yes.
I feel like I'm being set up to call myself a rapist in this scenario. I don't know if I feel comfortable actually answering this one. I'm just laying this out there. Okay. Under the stipulation that I always have a willing partner there.
Okay.
Whenever I need, because like I feel like if I crash on an island, I'm dead. No matter what, even if I could have survived, I'm dead.
Yeah.
All right. So then I guess I'm probably just gonna shut myself up in my house and hope.
Well, it sounds like you're leaning against this.
Well, what's it? So
You have the choice. You can choose to increase the pleasure, but it has a cost.
well, you know what? I think I might just stay.
You're gonna stick.
I think I'm gonna stay. Don't hit me. The dealer's gonna bust. I feel like there's a pun in there. If the dealer's a nut.
What? Okay.
I'll let the audience work that one out. I feel like there's a good pun in there somewhere. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So I think I'm gonna stay.
That's right. You worked that one out.
Because I feel like it's. I don't know. I don't think you can always guarantee that person being there, and so then I'd be dead.
Okay. Well, then I suppose I would love it if you could introduce our guest today.
Well, since Jeffrey didn't do his research, luckily we do have somebody that is a James Bond expert.
Oh, I did do some research.
So we have a James Bond expert here.
Let's not totally shoot the moon here.
Well, and by expert, I said my definition of expert is have seen most all of the movies and could probably answer some trivia on them.
Okay.
So here we have our James Bond expert, Jason Villiard.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Doing good. What do I do now?
Well,
Feel free to go ahead and answer that question if you want to jump in.
Okay, I'm going to answer that question. Okay, there's three things I got to point out here. First of all, okay, you can have sex or else you die, okay? First of all,
you have to have sex,
you have to have sex
you die.
or you die. Okay, yeah. Number one, I'm married. So
sounds like you're a dead man.
I might make it through New Year's Day, and then I'm not seeing the next year at all. I'm not seeing the next month, next week, nothing. Number two, exactly what happens is the pleasure keeps on going. It increases 10 times.
Oh, it's not exponentially. We figured that out. It's not exponentially like 10 times each time you have sex every day. It's actually just whatever your pleasure is right now, it's 10 times that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm picturing all of a sudden you're seeing the Skittles rainbow come into your face and just.
That's what I felt it was exponential too, but it's not exponential. It's just 10 times however you're.
Humans can't handle that much pleasure.
I know that. I've been told that many, many times. That's an excuse. That was what I was told one time when I was dating a girl in college, and by God, she was wrong. So, and then the last thing I'm going to say is, if you're stuck on the desert island, like you point out, there's no restraints to what you can have sex with, it sounds like.
That's true, I guess.
If it's life or death, okay, I'm grabbing a shark out of the ocean, and it's,
I mean, would a coconut suffice?
Dating, Jaws.
If you can have sex with a coconut, Jay, I'd say that counts.
Could. It was great.
I just want to know. I just want to know, though, when you're having sex with a shark, will the Coast Guard understand?
Do I give a shit? It's life or death.
Yeah.
Wait, lock me up, okay? It's self-preservation.
They can't lock you up because then you're gonna die.
Yeah, that's true.
You better.
Exactly.
I mean, you would be on the straight and narrow.
I hope he has some gentle cellmates.
Well, you bet.
Well, then I'm not gonna die.
There you go.
He's gonna be the worst of them all because he's gonna be like, "Get over here, buddy! It's life or death."
And I'm not.
Hey, Sanchez, get over here! Come on!
I'm fading quickly. No, well, with all due
soaps down, help! Over here.
With all due respect, I think prison might be the best place for you under that circumstance.
I've got a couple of family members who have said that to me a couple times too. Yeah.
Unless you get put in solitary.
Oh,
You know.
aye.
I mean, I don't know. Do you even get a mattress in there that you could have sex with?
Would the
I've never
mattress
been in
count?
solitary.
What country are you in?
Hey, if you're in solitary, give us a call.
Email us at openmicgripe@gmail.com.
I don't think they allow computers in there, but whatever.
So I want to hear what's on your mind. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some things that you think would be that you think that you'd want to share. Just some generally constructive complaints.
Generally constructive complaints. Well, I can start out with how my day went today. I got a side gig as an auctioneer. I work with my old man's auction service out of Am I allowed to say the name on the air?
Yeah.
Okay, John Villiard Auction Service out of Moorhead, Minnesota. You can find us on Facebook and online, and usually trying to hit up the obituaries and stuff like that. But anyways, you got to get into state sales somehow. He's gonna love that promotion, I tell you right now. But no, so at 5 a.m., I'm awake at 5 a.m. I get to drive my sorry hind end, and of course I didn't go to sleep. I was watching. Do you guys ever watch UFC fights?
Bits.
I like that was probably a resounding no when both of us just like stare at you.
Okay, I was watching two guys in a cage beat the living crap out of each other, which is somehow a metaphor for how I grew up. Okay, but the so I'm up till midnight doing that. Get up 5 a.m.
Your parents had a lot of cage matches.
Yeah,
Get in the hexagon. Get in the hexagon, kids. See who eats first.
Me and my sister, and to tell you the honest truth, I lost a lot. So to my little sister, it was bad. No, so I'm up 5 a.m. I have to drive out to Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I'm sitting outside in thunderstorms in a mosquito-infested farm, basically surrounded by junk on a wagon. Nobody brought any rain jackets because, God forbid, my dad gets a topper truck to sit in and stuff like that. I sit outside on this ring holding up whatever the hell it is he tells me to hold up, hold up that cow. It's a livestock auction. Here you go. Moo.
What was the best thing you sold today?
Best thing we sold today, I would say, being very serious, are you familiar with a lawyer's bookcase?
Yes.
It's a stacking bookcase and stuff like that. We had one I forget what the final bid. It started off at over $1,000.
Really?
Yes, and that baby went quite well.
Wow.
So it is an interesting business, I will say that. But considering the conditions I was working in today, that's what I would be most willing to bitch about. And then I was supposed to get a ride back to Moorhead early so I wouldn't have to stay and help clean up. Nope. Old fart who was supposed to bring me home, he left right away. I guess I'm picking up.
Do you ever do the auction voice?
Yeah, I do the auction.
Wait. Hey, I got okay. Since you probably know me a little bit better, Jason.
Okay.
Since Jason, you've done comedy. We've
I've
done comedy
done stand-up.
together. You've booked some shows that I've been on and whatnot. Puts me very early. It doesn't make me a headliner. I'm just pointing that out. Although people come up to me afterward and say, "But you were the best."
Yeah, and they actually did. They did do that.
Yeah.
They did do that.
It was a bar. They were drunk. They didn't know any better.
It's better than the guy who almost got me thrown out, but we won't go into that.
Yeah. We won't go into that.
I know. And I forgive him.
So let's do this. How about you sell me to our audience?
Sell you to the audience?
Yeah. So
All right.
so we want more listeners in. So you just go ahead and Jeffrey will bid every time he thinks you get something
You
right.
do realize I don't take bids for less than $50, right? I mean, I'm not taking penny bids. All right.
Let's see this.
So now you have to bid every time you think he nails something right about me and really thinks that this should draw in more listeners. You got
Okay.
it?
Okay.
So hold it. I'm actually selling you like with prices and that, or I'm like listing off things like really.
You're trying to list things off about me that are great and amazing. I mean, the list is endless. Let's be honest.
Jay, get your hand out of your pants.
I got them both up here.
That's one of his feet.
When I'm bidding, do I just say bid or here?
You raise your hand up
All
or
right,
say
let's
hey
do
or
it.
whatever you want to do.
Or you probably want to say bid because we don't have video. So
There we
Throw
go.
something at me.
Okay,
I don't know.
my official bidding noise is whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop.
There you go.
Okay.
That's
So start listing things off about you in a really fast.
Yep, and then we're gonna see if we can sell this. And then if you think you might have to call the end of this because I don't know if we'll know when.
I just want to see how far he can go.
Yeah, I want. That should be interesting.
All right, here we go. We got Jay Rice up here. Jay's got himself a couple of nice lip studs rings here. He's got a couple of lip studs in his ring. Whoop, whoop. Whoops. There, thank you very much. I died already. Look at that hat on his head. I got a misfits hat on his head. Got a great taste of music there. Got a great taste of music. Got a couple of headphones on his head and then like that. He's got a couple of headphones on his head, and when they go up to that, he's got a robot on his shirt. Got a robot on his shirt, and he's got a bad lisp. Got a bad lisp. That probably means that he gives good cunnilingus. Good cunnilingus. There you go. Right now he knows how to use that tongue. There you go. Now we're going to go on next time. If he's got a couple of good jokes. Tell us good jokes now. If you got a good joke here, if you got a good joke there. Now we got a good joke there. The fact that you're actually bit on that's an even better joke than you're on. What a really good joke. Look down his pants. Anyways, we'll leave on with that. Whoop, whoop.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's wow. Okay, that's very impressive. You're quick on your feet.
I wish I was a little bit quicker. That would have been a little bit smoother. I got a retainer underneath this one tooth back here, and I tied my tongue on it. I think I cut my. I had a sting underneath here. Whatever. It's right down here.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Awesome.
Jay, I want to know, how much was the final bid?
How much was the final bid?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think we're going well over $10.
I was sold on the cunnilingus.
You would be.
So were half the
Because
transvestites out there. They were all sold on too.
Jeffrey always needs somebody to step in.
Well, I like to be offered, you know? It's nice to see what's on the show. I didn't even notice you had an earring.
Yeah.
I think I was
You've
going for
never
tungsten.
noticed I've had an earring?
Until the auctioneer pointed that out.
Jeez.
I go with whatever I got.
Well, okay, so thank you so much for that.
Not a
That was
problem.
interesting.
Thank you, boys.
So, actually, the reason, as we stated before,
Yep.
we would like to talk today about 007 for Gripe number 007.
Yep.
So,
Gripe 007.
Yeehaw.
I did a little bit of research going into this, of course. Just personally, a little bit of background on me. I watched the Bond films growing up as well, but from Pierce Brosnan on. And most recently, I've seen the first Bond film, Dr. No. And I've got a lot of mixed feelings about the James Bond franchise. But Jay, how about yourself?
So you didn't even watch the first Casino Royale?
It was in 1967. Dr. No was in
It
62.
was before that.
What?
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
Dr. No, excuse me, a Casino Royale that was a television
Yeah.
movie that was back in the 50s.
CBS, right?
I think so. 54, I think it was.
Okay.
I had it written down, actually. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. But that was
Yeah.
on TV, so it sucked.
Yeah, it did suck. James Bond was played by an American. He was an American spy,
gosh.
surrounded by British guys, and everybody called him Jimmy. So it sounded like it was in black and white, so it was like
Jimmy
a
Bond.
bad mobster flick.
Jimmy Bond.
Hey, Jimmy, we gotta stop these spies, you see? You gotta how? Stop the Maltese Falcon, see? Or what? No, it didn't work.
Jay, which films did you get a chance to watch?
Well, I actually watched all the ones we were supposed to. Casino Royale, Dr. No, Goldfinger, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Man with the Golden Gun, License to Kill, GoldenEye, and Casino Royale. And then, of course, I have seen the other ones,
Very
Quantum of Solace and
You did?
Skyfall.
Okay.
But
okay.
those have been a while since I've saw those.
Yeah. Ah, okay. So, knowing that, why are you a fan of Bond?
I grew up on James Bond. My folks, when my sister and I were growing up, they liked James Bond, and my sister and I would get a chance to stay up late when there was a James Bond flick on, and we'd be able to stay there and watch all the great action, or great for the time and stuff like that. And of course we grew up in a slightly conservative Christian household and stuff like that. So I mean, my folks were always concerned when there was James Bond here making love to a beautiful woman. Of course, they had no problem when he'd shoot some guy with a spear gun in the chest and shit like that, and blood comes gushing out. That was fun.
No, spear to the chest. Christians know all about that.
Stigmata!
If anything, he was rather Christ-like.
Exactly. Well, at least the bad guy was. I think that's Goldfinger he does that in. Isn't that where he sees the girl in the guy's eye? Or the guy in the girl's eye, he's looking behind, or he sees him coming up behind her, and then it's... Bonk!
Wow.
Oh wait,
Somehow
Christ
just-
did that?
No,
Christ saw somebody coming up behind him.
Christ
and-
saw Pilate coming up behind him.
That's an action film I'd watch. Okay, so I had a chance to.
Bond. Jesus Bond.
I had a chance to watch the original, the very first
Made in
Doctor No.
007 days.
I gotta say, I don't think these older movies hold up to any standard. You know, when you watch Stanley Kubrick films, you still see them today, and you're thinking, "Wow, that still holds up. It's still a great film." And then when I think about the original Bond films, it's typically with cliche interactions. You've got your cheesy lines in there, but everyone expects that.
Mm-hmm.
What was your take on the originals? I mean,
You mean like if you're talking like, how do I put it? The originals to me, you've got to look at them in the time I always think that they were made.
okay.
Because you're talking like the 60s and 70s and stuff. And obviously, things were changing and stuff like that from that point up to now.
Mm.
So, I mean, in a way, yeah, they do kind of hold up, I think, as long as you keep in perspective. This is happening 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
So some of that stuff. Also taking into fact, too, that some of these books that were written, 30, 40 years before the movie came out. So they're taking liberties with the books
Right.
already. Does that kind of make sense? I
Yeah.
mean, you got to expect that they're taking liberties there and trying to move that into what for them was the modern time. And of course, that gets worse and worse as you go on.
Yeah.
You get to when they started doing the actual earlier books and stuff like that, when Roger Moore came along. Because actually, Dr. No, if I remember correctly, is like the 6th or 7th book in the series. And by the time Roger Moore comes along, now they're doing the earlier books. So they're taking books that were based, God knows how much before then. What was it, like in the teens or something like that? Some of those were written, or...
Oh,
No.
are we talking about books? I've pointed out numerous times I don't read books.
I was
okay.
I was reading.
I'm sorry about that.
I don't have knowledge about books. I don't.
Oh, so you're like 95% of the population nowadays. That's fine.
I was reading that the original book.
I speak for the people.
Well, I think Fleming was born in 19 teens, somewhere in there.
Okay, so then the
1917.
books-
The books came out it seems in the early 50s.
50s, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, you're definitely right on that. Okay, so anyway, so you're taking books from the 50s
Right.
now, the earlier books, and that would include, like, I believe it's Live and Let Die and so on.
Yeah.
And you're putting those now even further in, like, in the 70s and 80s.
For your eyes only.
You know what I was surprised about? I was surprised that the first Bond film wasn't in black and white. I was yes. I was really expecting the first one to be in black and white.
Why?
I don't know.
Even Wizard of Oz had color.
I also don't understand timelines. Somebody pointed out something the other day in my own timeline, and I had no idea where that happened in my life.
In your life?
Yeah, in my life.
Oh, jeez.
And I was so I have no concept of time or books.
Fair enough. No, what I was interested in is how much America's political and pop culture played into the Bond series. Like, I was reading that JFK was a huge fan of the Bond novels.
Yep.
And after Dr. No came out, his love of the series inspired the filmmakers to make For Your Eyes Only as the second film, right before he died.
No, that I did not know. I did not know that one.
It's crazy. He watched the movie a week before he died.
Jesus Jones.
So it's interesting how all the influence came from.
Maybe you should have paid attention to some of the spy stuff that was going on and stuff
Right.
like that. And if there really is a conspiracy in that,
I think that was one thing that I liked about the first the Dr. No is that they showed little things, like little what I consider spy things.
Yeah.
Like you would always notice him sniffing his drink, or like when he left his room, he put hair like across the
door,
the
yeah.
door,
so you
would
could tell
know.
if somebody had been in there.
Yep. I hope my maids don't listen, because sometimes I do shut my door and I put a piece of paper in there, because there's one room that they're supposed to stay out of, so I put a piece of paper up in there, so then that way
Yeah.
I know if they actually go into that room.
Oh, those are the fun ones. I've
True.
never had anyone burn that bridge before.
No.
I'm kind of hoping sometimes.
Well, that's one thing too about movies like Doctor No and that when they did the spy stuff and that, and then as it goes later on, it gets they become so dependent on the gadgets
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Some of it actually becomes just way out there. Doctor No, everything is really pretty. I mean, there's some stuff that you probably stretch out, like the dragon.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah,
island.
but even that, it was. I mean, I'm
Believable.
not really giving anything away. I mean, spoiler alert: if you haven't watched something from the '60s, too bad. But I mean, even the dragon, it was kind of like a modified tank that's breathes fire.
Pretty much.
I mean,
yeah,
so
that's all
really,
it is.
it was not. I think Doctor No really holds up. Actually, I think Doctor No holds up. What I found interesting is after I started watching the other movies, I noticed that Q is by far always a comic relief.
Yeah.
I mean, even when he's showing the gadgets, there was that one point in one of the last ones where he had a here we go. It was in License to Kill with Timothy Dalton. He had a broom walkie-talkie. Like he's out on the street just like sweeping, and then the car drives by and he opens up the broom and he pulls out this big antenna out of the bristle area, pulls apart the handle, talks into it, and then just tosses the broom into the trees. I'm like, why didn't you just have a regular walkie-talkie?
Or keep it afterwards.
Yeah, but that's again. So I mean, why didn't you just have a regular walkie-talkie? And then why do you just toss it away?
And here's another thing too. This is the guy who's always pissed off about how Bond doesn't treat his stuff with respect.
Yeah.
And he's just chucking this.
And he's like, make sure to bring it back, Bond, you know?
At this point, this guy don't give a shit about his job. He's been through like 15, 16 adventures. It's like, it's going to get ruined.
Well, I mean, all of the Bond gadgets are easily recoverable, right? The cars with rockets on them. And I mean, you could just,
The one that transforms into a submarine.
Right.
I like that one.
Oh, he just gets, it's guaranteed that Bond's going to lose his car somehow.
You better believe it.
So,
And that thing isn't getting towed away either. It's getting blown up, burned up, crushed, something.
oh yeah.
I thought one that was interesting too. It was also in that Timothy Dalton. Well, that's where he ends up going. He's an agent off the rails.
Yeah.
Like basically, he was doing what he wasn't supposed to be doing, and so Q goes on holiday to meet up with him, and he gives him a camera that's a gun.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. That makes sense. But then he also has a scope for that camera. And an extra long barrel, and I'm like, what is happening? Because the one thing that I was reading, like, I was really excited to watch the Timothy Dalton ones, because apparently Timothy Dalton really played it. He played him more as like a psychopath.
Right.
He was an aggressive Bond.
And that's what
very aggressive.
I was excited to see that part, but I thought since the one that I watched, License to Kill, I was kind of upset because I wanted to see more of a psychopath.
Right.
And the whole thing with License to Kill is that it's loyalty to his friend Felix, you know, and Felix's wife dies, and so that's like the whole thing is that he's off to kill this guy. And I'm like, I just wanted to see somebody that was way more like just a stone cold killer and like not like sociopath, psychopath kind of style.
Well, that's actually an interesting point. I mean, the big question that everyone always talks about is who's your favorite Bond? And 99% of people always give the same answer. And
Sean Connery?
I'm not satisfied with that, personally.
But that was your answer going into this until you turned around and watched Dr. No.
No, that's just the cliche answer. Honestly,
I thought he didn't watch anything.
Well,
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Jason.
Oh, not a problem.
You really should have watched it, because that was one thing we set every Bond, the 8 that we set up to watch, there was a Bond in every one. And actually, one thing I like is that, what's his name? The guy that played 1, I just forgot his name.
George
Lazenby.
Lazenby.
Thank you.
George Lazenby.
And a lot of people actually, although they don't, not a lot of people think George Lazenby is their favorite Bond. A lot of people say that On Her Majesty's Service is one of the better films.
Did you hear how George Lazenby got the job?
You told me earlier, but
That was a setup.
I know
right?
it was. I liked just tearing down your setup. And
Just
watching your
make the
face.
guy look like an ass. Why not? God, you guys do act like you're married. This is how my wife and I are usually. It's just like,
Oh yeah, your wife usually is like, Oh, yeah, I'm sure she does set you up to fail.
She does, yes. Her first setup for me to fail was saying, yes, I do. And that was, from there on in.
Your relationships with women are outstanding. I could just.
I have not had, I don't think I've had one good, I shouldn't, I'm going to say this right now. My wife tolerates more shit than any other woman on earth. At my wedding, my friends honestly said, up front, in front of everyone, at the dinner, that Minda's gonna like get a special place in heaven because she has to tolerate me. It's gonna be like, Jesus, Saint Peter, Saint Minda, and that's gonna be like the whole thing. That
So you're basically a less suave version of Bond.
I'm not that suave. All right, look at this shirt, okay?
I like how whenever you do comedy, you have to wear your Hawaiian shirt. We're on a podcast, and you still had to put just to get into the mood. You had to put on your Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta put on my little down boy thing here and come out looking like somebody's rejected Bob Marley poster or something like that. So,
Honestly, it looks like you're any one of the Bond affiliates.
I could be.
Yeah,
One of the you mean one of the guys who like helps
CIA, the CIA guy who always
I'm
shows
Felix.
up. Yeah.
Yes.
No, may I anyway?
Yes.
Go
Go ahead and
ahead.
tell
George
people.
Lazenby. I was reading that he was a huge fan of Bond, of the novels and of the early films, and when he heard that Connery wasn't going to be in them anymore, he went to audition, dressing as Bond would,
Right.
carrying the gun.
As I recall, he was a former model too.
Yeah, he was a
Yep.
model, but he had no acting experience at all.
Right.
And he lied. He said he had been in films around the world. Nobody had checked him out. Not a single one. And then he sold the crowd.
Okay, so now James Bond expert, you can answer this one.
Go ahead.
Is James Bond okay? So in all of the films, are they all supposed to be basically the same person? Are they all James Bond 007? Or when somebody dies, is there a new James Bond 007?
My understanding has always been, the way I've always interpreted it, and the way kind of that the books always say, is it's the same guy.
It is the
These
same
are
guy.
his adventures. Now, as things have gone along, obviously, this is probably what you're leading up to, the idea that, now you've got Daniel Craig. Roger Craig?
Roger Moore, Daniel Craig.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm a real expert, folks. You can tell they spent the high bucks on this son of a bitch, didn't they? Yeah, bringing the schlep, anyways, or the gimp, whatever you want to call me. I will be a gimp for $50. $50 is $50. Okay, no, going back to the idea now though that we got Daniel Craig, who's a blonde Bond, obviously doesn't fit the appearance anymore.
I do think they're trying to turn it into more of a that if somebody dies, there can be another 007.
Well, that's the only way you can keep it going in the
Right.
movies too.
It's kind of like the American version of Doctor Who now, where it's just like, hey, we can get a new person to play this, but it still makes sense. There's still this
But
person.
I don't know. I'm not satisfied with that because he always tends to be. I mean, granted, not the same personality, but along the same lines.
Right, but again, just like how each actor can play him a little bit differently.
Right.
And like as I pointed this out to Jeffrey, because I asked Jeffrey this question, and he said that they were all supposed to be the same person. But what I found most interesting is at the beginning of On Her Majesty's Service,
I know the line you're gonna say.
he goes, it's right away, and he goes, "This wouldn't have happened to that other fella."
This never happened to the other guy.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Yep.
yep.
Which is a reference to him taking over for
Was that just the studio's wink to the audience?
I
or
think that's a wink to the
I
audience.
think
Okay.
so.
breaking that fourth wall.
Because
It
another
was-
thing that you notice is, like you said, all these traits that Bond always has the martini
Yeah.
shaken, not stirred. He's always smoking the cigarettes. He's always. By the way, in the books, this is a little fact for you. In the books, you know how many cigarettes James Bond used to smoke a day, roughly?
2 packs.
Roughly about 60 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Custom-made cigarettes that he would roll himself, as I understand it.
Oh my gosh.
Was that?
How does he find the time to roll 60 cigarettes a day?
I don't know, but how does he pick up girls like that? His smile has got to be so yellow. It looks like the yellow brick road or whatever, the golden road. Just smile like this. Yee.
But that's okay. So that's the thing. I grew up watching Pierce Brosnan,
Right.
and so for me, Pierce Brosnan was Bond.
And they wanted him to be Bond too, if I remember correctly, prior to getting Timothy Dalton.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's I
Because
think
he couldn't get out of Remington Steele.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, it all had to do with the fact that he was in Remington Steele at the time, and he couldn't get out of his contracts at that show. And he makes, in my opinion, a great Bond. But
And those Pierce Brosnan films, watched them again. They're horrible. They're horrible. But in my opinion, like Pierce Brosnan is the smoothest Bond. You know.
okay, so it's interesting because we're kind of talking about the tradition of Bond.
Yeah.
And about how like he always drinks a martini. How do you feel about the new one with Daniel Craig? And he changed the drink. He changed it to his own
What?
martini.
No. Which one?
If you would have done your research.
Which film?
It was just in
Casino Royale?
Casino Royale.
Yeah, that's because that's the origin story. So that was what if
it
you
is
remember
technically the origin story,
right.
yes.
He got poisoned, and that's why he changed it to shaken not stirred, so he could make sure that nobody dropped anything in.
Gotcha.
So that was the origin of the shaken not stirred.
But he changed it to a Vespa. He
Yeah.
changed a martini a little bit, so it's
a
still
Vespa
a
is
martini.
not a martini, is it?
No, it's an original drink. If I
Yeah.
remember right from the film, it was an original drink that he made up.
I'm
Yeah.
not allowed to drink hard alcohol since 2008. And we don't want to talk about what happened there.
He's already going back down memory lane, and he's just like,
Concordia
oh,
still has
triggers.
Concordia still has a restraining order against me, I think, from that incident. And we won't talk about it, but I apologize to the farmers. So
You know, speaking of, okay, we do have to get in. I need to talk about a gripe, though, here.
Yeah.
Since that's the point of the show. The original Casino Royale. Have you guys seen that? You have seen that.
the black and white one, or
No,
the
the
where
Woody
they
Allen
changed
one?
out all of the actors, right? They had a bunch of people playing Bond.
Yes.
Woody Allen comedies to me are a lot like a colonoscopy. I don't care who tells you that you need to get one. You are going to feel really bad about it the next day, okay? It's going to hurt a lot. And by the way, the only good thing about the colonoscopy afterwards is you know you don't have cancer. With the Woody Allen movie, you might think you have a tumor in your brain, okay? And with the comedies, I can list one or two Woody Allen movies I like.
All
Comedies,
Woody Allen
oh.
fans, right?
Oh my god!
Right in
that
and
was-
open mic gripe.
I mean, that was awful. That was.
Yeah.
I even
heard
put
that.
one of my notes. I was like, "This is what comedies were." I was like, it was awful. It was hard to follow. Well, first of all, I couldn't put on the subtitles, so I had a hard time understanding anything. But yeah,
Okay.
that was absolutely awful. I don't quite understand the point. I probably should have researched this, but I don't understand the point of why he even tried to make this. Was it supposed to be a parody of the books, or
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, wasn't that the books were such a cultural hit at the time?
They were a big hit at that. There's a reason why he kept coming out with them
Okay.
after like the third or fourth book. There were peers of him saying he was like a master of that kind of storytelling and stuff.
Didn't he have a background in espionage?
Yeah, he was with the British Navy,
Okay.
and he was involved with the name Goldeneye. In fact, comes from a mission he was on, a code name for a mission he was on
Yeah.
during or after the Spanish Civil War, I believe it was.
wait,
Okay.
Woody Allen?
No, not Woody Allen.
Oh.
Woody Allen was on it. Woody Allen was on a
For
special
a while,
mission.
I thought you guys were talking about Woody Allen, and I'm like,
The only
I
covert,
had no idea.
the only covert mission Woody Allen was on involved, Oriental girls. That's it. Okay.
Or his stepdaughter?
Exactly. Well, wasn't she Oriental?
Oh, well,
I thought she was.
Jesus,
Yeah.
man, we don't really say Oriental anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I grew up. Look,
Oriental is for furniture.
and certain types of food. Okay, look, I'm 40 years old and I grew up way too long, and that's what they always used to say.
Even Bond learned how to respect women and ethnic minorities faster.
Bond respected women. That's
Well,
the first
actually,
problem.
that's
a good
something
point.
that I have to talk about here.
That is a
He
gripe
does.
that we need
As-
to bring up.
As
so.
a male feminist, I have to ask what role this sort of traditionally masculine Bond had on young men, and how it led to people.
I just thought of something.
What?
If we have to keep saying we're male feminists, is that like, because if you say, hey, I have a black friend, you're probably a racist
Oh.
because you have to point out that you have a black
Well,
friend. So really,
entirely depending on
if
the-
we keep saying we're male feminists, is it
I gotta
really?
stop saying that now too. Great, just take my vocabulary,
So,
guys.
depending on the fact that if somebody had heard this episode first,
Uh-huh.
and never heard any other,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be kind of an important thing to point out when entering this conversation.
All right. Well, I just think probably with what you say,
People
could
need-
probably be pointed out as to
What?
whether you are or aren't,
Right. Well,
as
okay.
opposed to just because you can say, "Hey, I'm a male feminist," and then just be like, say something completely awful, like how you set me
Oh.
up to basically be a rapist in that opening scenario.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just saying.
I think he needs that hug now.
I don't need that
Yes,
hug. Go sit down.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, regarding Bond's treatment of women, in the first movie, Doctor No, he's just blatantly sexist.
Oh yeah.
And as
Well, he
the film,
slaps a lady at one point. I mean,
well, to
Or
be
that
fair,
was-
most of the women he slept with, I think the number was
slaps.
most of the women
Oh.
he slept with, nearly 70% of them have tried to kill him. So
I'm sorry, if you're gonna try, if she's gonna pull a gun on you,
you
what
gotta
are you
defend
supposed to
yourself.
do?
It's
Please,
kinda
honey, put down the gun. I think we can ration this out.
I like how I did in. It must have been in Goldfinger. Yeah, it was Goldfinger that has Pussy Galore.
Yes.
First
One of the
name.
great names.
Yeah.
Right up there with Dr. Goodhead. That is legitimately the name of the doctor in Moonraker, which
In
makes
Moonraker?
yes, in Moonraker, which makes you wonder, is this the only stripper that was actually able to pay for her college degree with the money that she put in her G-string? I mean, that's the name
Oh
you
my
get.
gosh.
So,
Which? I'm sorry. Go on.
so Goldfinger, it was Pussy Galore, which was funny because she was actually a pretty strong female character. But then one of my notes was actually like, "Oh, Bond got pretty rapey."
Yeah. He
does.
like all the time.
I'm like, geez, this got. I mean, and I realized it was a different time, but I was just like, I couldn't believe how forceful it became at some points. And in fact, actually, here I wanna. You guys talked about something, but there's a quote I want to bring up.
No, I mean that's the thing is we all have a responsibility to educate each other on the ideas of consent, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And when I see Bond, it's like that's the antithesis of everything we're trying to encourage each other to be to think about.
You
And,
mean regarding like
well, yeah, he makes an advance on a woman and she says no. Come on, Mr.
no
Bond,
means
stop
no.
it. And he's like, well, just go for it.
Yeah, because if I kiss her
No.
and rape her, that's going to turn her to my side.
Well,
Which I have never heard. That's like the worst case of Stockholm syndrome I've ever heard. or something like that.
that was the weirdest thing. Okay, and do you remember the line at Goldfinger? Okay, because so let me just say that this was on an article called "Why I Hate James Bond," and then they say, "Am I the only one who will point out the obvious? That is, James Bond is a boring, tasteless rapist, and the only reason people go to see Bond movies is because they've already seen Bond movies."
I gotta say,
Eh?
if Bond was sitting right here at the table with us, would he even be able to? Would he be a good conversation? No, he'd
No,
be
probably
so
not.
singularly focused on his mission, his job,
This is a good point.
and you would not want to have a beer with the guy.
But and then this
Well,
article.
he'd be a hell of a wingman, though.
That's true.
No, he wouldn't. He would scoop everything up
Okay,
and then force them to have sex with him.
pretty much, yes.
I like-
And if he's turning him down, you know there's something really wrong.
And this was the weirdest thing. Okay, so of course, Pussy Galore was a villain, and so then she's talking, or actually, I don't know if this is a female or male on this article actually, but it says it contains the best villain and really the only woman who is not a complete cipher. Pussy Galore. James Bond rapes her, and it says debatable maybe, but okay. So in the movie, the thing is that she is going to drop this gas to help him. Basically blow up all the gold in Fort Knox.
Not
Yeah.
blow it up. They're going to radiate it.
Oh yes,
They're
correct.
going to make it radioactive. So for the next 50-some years or something like that, it will be untouchable,
Right.
unusable. It'll throw the American economy into
Right.
a spiral, and the Chinese or someone is going to
And
capitalize.
then, of course, all the gold that Goldfinger has would skyrocket.
Of course, yes.
So, okay, so this is a scene where actually it looks like they fight, and then he forces himself upon her. Now, of course, at the end when he's kissing her, you can see her soften her grip,
Right.
whatever. So, I mean, that's why I think people say it's debatable. But then at the end, and this is apparently the point where he changes her mind. Now, at the end, they say, "How did you get Pussy Galore to call us in and work with you?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Apparently, I tapped into, I'm not thinking of the correct word, but he said I relied on her maternal instinct."
Oh my gosh.
I'm like,
Oh dear.
that
Yeah.
line doesn't even make
That's-
sense. Yeah.
No,
I don't think
it's
that
just
line's
incredible.
I'm positive that line isn't used in the book either, because in the book, Pussy Galore at one point is running lesbian acrobats.
What?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lesbian acrobats.
In the book Goldfinger.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as lesbian acrobats. Is that a night
You mean
class?
the acrobats or the plain acrobatics?
No. They're acrobats.
Why are they lesbian acrobats?
I have no idea.
Okay. Now, just in general, I mean, Bond just screws up people's lives. He makes everyone he works with miserable.
How many women that he sleeps with die afterwards?
Yeah. They die. How many people in the background of every movie get their entire workplace destroyed? Or how many cars in the middle of the street just get screwed over? How many people never make it to work, are killed on their way to see their kids? I want to see a day in the life of someone who owns the car that James Bond drives a tank over in any one of the films. You know, it's
Where did he actually drive the tank? That was
that
Pierce
was
Brosnan. wasn't
GoldenEye?
it? That was GoldenEye.
that was
Yep,
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
Oh.
did you know that? I was just reading this before the show. GoldenEye, one of the most successful video games in modern history.
Yes.
Had 8 out of the 9 programmers for GoldenEye had no experience with video games before that.
Really?
It was just a complete unknown for most of them, and they made a just smash game.
There's your lookup. That thanks to our friends at Wikipedia.
I don't know what you're trying to show me.
No, just her and her lesbian trapeze artists
okay.
or whatever, or acrobats.
I
yeah.
found that quote though. He
Yeah.
said, "This is what he said in response to how did you get Pussy Galore over on our side?" He said, "I must have appealed to her maternal instincts."
It's a hell of a
How?
appeal.
That's pretty edible.
Like,
I'm just saying, it's either really edible or it's just.
that is just the weirdest
Yeah.
line.
Well, I mean, of course, as the shows go on, as the movies go on, you see, Judi Dench gets the character M, who, by the way, M was always supposed to be a mother figure, right?
Kind of a mother figure or
Yeah.
whatever. Father figure, I guess you'd say, because it was always men at the beginning.
Right.
And then it's Judi Dench, of course, who
me see
does a
that.
great job. What?
Let me see your phone.
Okay,
Um,
right here.
And it's just, I mean, so there are important lead female roles as the movies go on. They start to really embrace this. They're starting to embrace the criticism that's saying, it's too sexist, it's too misogynistic. And then, Moneypenny still gets, unfortunately, the brunt of sexual harassment on an everyday level. But
Moneypenny, though,
But
does
no,
give
she-
stuff back at the same time.
Yeah, and I feel like she's a strong female character, although because she always like dishes it back, and
Right.
there's like a little game between them.
And she's always got her stuff together, too. This is
Yes.
not some dumb secretary.
there's-
And
Power-
she saves Bond. And, I mean, like in the License to Kill, it was her that tracks him down and basically sends Q to help.
Right.
I'm not, okay, yeah.
She's a capable character. She may
Yes.
not be like the one out there with machine guns and stuff like that, but this isn't somebody who
Right.
you see as like the TV secretary who's just there for the boss to stare at.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, as the later movies go on, the lead female roles were definitely stronger, more independent. But at the same time, it really did seem like their central role was for sexual purposes. Naomi Harris in the most recent film did a great job as his sidekick. But overall, I just see. I have to wonder how this influenced men and what they aspired to be like as they were growing up from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
I can remember being younger and watching this and wanting. I mean, I was younger at the age where I wasn't always grasping, how great it was to have the girls and stuff like that. But I mean, I can remember wanting the cars and stuff like that, and to be able to go out on the dangerous stuff and get the recognition and feel like you're the macho man.
Okay.
He's got a very macho appeal to him. Probably, like I said, it's from that time when.
I would say for me it would be the gadgets. See, as much as we kind of joke about the gadgets and how they kind of made the movies almost even more trite, because even when that's the one thing I did like about the Timothy Dalton, the way he played it, is that I think it would have been better without all of the gadgets and everything. And if he would have been the way that he did play it, it was a little bit like the gadgets kind of take you out of that. It kind of takes that edge off of him when he uses that kind of stuff.
Because that was going to be kind of, like you said, he's gone rogue. He's completely, he's quit MI6. They've put a bounty on his head.
Yeah.
If I recall, and stuff like that. So when they do bring in Q and it's like, hey, here's all your.
Yeah, it just seemed trite, and I didn't like it. But I would say that my favorite part, especially when I remember being young and watching Bond, the gadgets were by far my favorite part. I mean, and I'm totally a gadget guy now, so it makes sense that even when I was a kid, that was always the coolest. Mm-hmm. And even something as ridiculous as the ejector seat, and
stuff like that. Or he'd have the cigarette. I remember in one he had the cigarette where it shoots a bullet out after he lights it.
Yeah.
Now, some of that stuff, allegedly, if I remember correctly, was based on things that they were actually trying to develop.
Well, they always hired professional, like actual spies as consults and writers.
Wait, now, is this a time where art is imitating life or life is imitating art?
Well, do you remember that scene in, I think, is it Moonraker, where he takes off the wetsuit and has the tuxedo on? Or is that Gold?
No. That was actually Goldfinger.
Goldfinger,
Okay,
yes.
Yep. So that apparently one of the main writers for that movie was a spy. For
Did he
the
also
UK.
have the bird when he was on the bird on his head when he was swimming?
I don't remember that.
I don't know, but the guy was the writer is they discovered later was actually working for MI6, and there was historians have said there's an actual case where this happened before the movie was written, where somebody had gone in with a specially designed wetsuit, opened it up, and splashed alcohol all over himself to appear drunk and get by the guards.
Makes sense.
Wow.
That was a real. I mean, so if that could be very much art imitating life.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, you wouldn't even need to be a special. You could do a dry suit. Dry suit would actually do that. So.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I was amazed at how much. I mean, JFK actually called Ian Fleming and asked him if he had any suggestions for defeating Fidel Castro, according to legend.
Now that,
That's
what if you're in a pinch, call somebody who knows. So
Yeah.
I guess
That'd be
or
amazing.
you think knows.
So, what do you guys think of? And I learned about this a long time ago. But what do you think about Daniel Craig? Is that right? Did I do? Yeah, Daniel Craig.
You got it better than I did.
He wanted to do James Bond's first gay scene.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've heard that. It's
You
but
probably heard
they,
it from
they
me.
refused. Oh, I don't want to destroy your setups.
No,
Here we go again.
mine are flawless.
Dun, 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 dun.
But no, I think that's great because and of course there's a lot of homophobia and people are just like, what? Why would God? He's a womanizer. But if you're a spy and you use everything that you can to, it's not like Daniel Craig was just like, hey, I just want to.
Let's
just
just
do
throw
it with
this
some
out there.
dude. No, it would make complete sense in the James Bond genre. Just that that being the ultimate spy, he would at some point have to.
You either do this or you're
I was
going
gonna
to
say
find yourself-
womanize a man. I was.
Wow.
That sounds more like he's going to castrate him. Like he takes that wire out of his watch that he uses to strangle him, but instead, like,
Well, speaking of which, did you know that there was a trans woman on as an actress in one of the Bond films?
no, I did not know that. Which one was that? Was
Do
that
you remember what film that was in, Jay?
Caroline Cossi.
Yeah.
in?
You
Oh,
guys
shit.
talk for a second.
Oh yeah, so I
Oh
mean,
my god.
this was, and of course it was news of the world. Rupert Murdoch's horrible tabloid paper that decided to out her, and
Nothing like that.
and she was. I mean, she was a
For Your Eyes Only.
For Your Eyes Only. So that was the second film. Yeah, and she played one of the leading women in the pool scene. So
Okay.
that's quite interesting.
For Your Eyes Only.
Isn't that the second film?
No, that is not. Is it the second film? That's the second film with. Is that the second
Connery.
film with Moore?
Roger Moore, yeah.
Second film
right.
This
with
was
Roger
in-
Moore. Yeah.
Okay.
1981.
Okay. Well, still, that's hugely progressive.
It
for
is.
its time.
Yeah.
So I was surprised when I heard that, but no, I would have honestly I would have liked to have seen Daniel Craig show, just how open and okay he was with the role of that's his job and he has to do what he has to do to get ahead or to get the job done, and I think that would have been immensely popular, but I don't know why they left that out.
Yeah, I'm not
Actually-
sure. It might still happen. He's still Bond,
Right.
so you never know.
Well,
Maybe it could happen with the
how
new
long is he going
upcoming
to be
Spectre.
Bond?
Well, I don't know. He is for Spectre, so
He is
Yeah.
for Spectre, and I don't know when his contract goes. At one time, I had thought they were talking about putting in a black James Bond,
Yeah, I mean, what's his
which
name?
again goes back to the idea that
Right.
is this the same guy every time, or is it?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is it's a little bit obviously Bond doesn't necessarily have any race. I mean, Bond is just Bond, but I think
he has
people,
a nationality.
He does have that.
It's the
supposed to
same
be.
kind of outrage as people who say like Santa Claus has to be white. It's kind of silly, but the only thing is,
Or like the whole superhero thing now is everybody's
Yeah.
really upset with people changing the superheroes.
Like
two different
Iceman
races.
becoming gay or something like that, or
Well, I didn't know that one.
you didn't hear that one?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, in the X-Men comics, they made Iceman gay now.
Oh, I did not know that. But I guess I was
That's
talking more
recent.
like the Johnny Storm, the Human
Oh,
Torch.
in Fantastic Four, becoming
Fantastic
African American.
Four.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are just like, don't mess with it. And it's just like, you're just hiding behind racism. You're just hiding behind
Yeah.
being a fanboy to hide your racism. But it doesn't. I mean, if they do a good job, who cares? If the movie flops, well, I mean, that's sometimes that's on the actors, and a lot of times it's not.
unfortunately, with so many members of society, you just have to rip that Band-Aid off as soon as possible. I mean, they're gonna. I'm trying to. Idris Elba was the name of the actor. He's been in a lot of Guy Ritchie films. He was in The Wire.
Yeah,
Phenomenal actor.
What are you looking him up for?
Because he was the
Oh,
one that
who
was
might
slated
be-
to be
That's right.
the new Black Bond, and I think he's a great actor. But Bond is Scottish.
No, Bond's
No, Sean Connery. is
Bond's
Scottish.
English. Sean Connery's Scottish. Can I make one more correction too here?
Yeah,
I was looking
please.
this up because that didn't sound right. When you were saying that For Your Eyes Only was the second, that was actually the fifth Roger Moore film.
No. What is the second film then? Because it was
Second film was Goldfinger. First film was Doctor No.
You know, here's a little lesson learned. Maybe we should have just had a
No, second
timeline.
film was From Russia with Love.
There
Jesus.
you go. Okay.
Holy
okay.
shit!
Well,
Am I?
Sorry,
I-
folks. We probably could have had a timeline just sitting in front of us. That
Yeah,
probably would have
no.
been.
I
easiest thing to do.
apologize.
Probably
Yeah,
could have gotten a better expert too here. And
I
I'm pulling
apologize,
shit out of my youth from 30 years ago, half of which I've had to go to a psychiatrist to recover. You know?
Well, I apologize. I got that one wrong. It's
I got
it's
it
from
wrong.
Russia.
I,
with Love.
said, I agreed
Oh.
with you.
I gotta say, so to kind of wrap this up, I think there is one thing that we could learn from Bond,
Yeah.
and that's I wish more people that were enemies could be so civil.
Yes.
That's the one thing that so I don't know, multiple times they'd be like, kill Bond, and then they're like, sorry, we couldn't kill Bond, and then he'd be like, well, I'm gonna invite him to dinner then. That happened numerous times, and
Right.
they're just like, well, come on, you're now my guest. And I was just like, if people could just be that civil with their enemies, it'd probably be a much better. I mean, yeah, we get it. You don't like each other. You want to kill each other. Just be a little civil about it.
Well, I also have to say he's got to be the worst secret agent since everybody knows his cover.
True.
There's not a single Bond actor that's been short enough to actually be a secret agent. They've all been tall, very
because you
tall,
want to be you want to be
handsome,
nondescript.
you know.
For your height only, you've never watched it. This is an actual movie, I believe, from the Philippines. It is a James Bond spoof
No way.
about a midget secret agent called Agent 00.
Oh, God.
They didn't even give him a third number, Agent 00.
Okay.
And he's out to stop Dr. Giant. And he's a little Filipino guy.
That sounds like
This
a
reminds
weekend.
me of the Chuck Palahniuk book.
What's that?
I don't remember what it is,
Oh,
but it's
no.
a Chuck Palahniuk. Yeah, basically where they have a pygmy go into
A pygmy?
into
Little people, guys. Little people.
no.
A pygmy
He's
what?
he's a pygmy.
Pygmy what?
That's what they call him that in the book, and so he goes into rural like middle western America to bring down the United States.
Okay.
How?
I don't know, but it's called pygmy. I think that's what it's called.
God.
I think I'm gonna look it
You
up.
actually had to
Okay.
forget. Jesus
Well,
Christ.
but we'll have to discuss that one on a future episode.
What happened?
Well, hey, I really want to say thank you.
Look at
man,
that.
for
I
coming
just
on
want
the
to point
show.
that out. It is actually called pygmy.
From
So
the year
bef-
2009.
So before you Jeffrey was giving me this looks like, how in the world could you say pygmy on the air?
Well,
It's called pygmy.
You gotta defend yourself. I know that.
This guy didn't even do his research.
Obviously, I didn't either because I was agreeing with him on shit I knew nothing about, apparently.
So anybody call in. You can be an expert.
I would like to hear that. Actually, if anybody calls in, if we said anything wrong about Bond and it's just driving you crazy, send us an email at openmicgripe. openmicgripe@gmail.com. Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think we're wrapping it up. So Jeffrey and I would like to thank you for joining us and
Thank
listening
you.
to Open Mic Gripe, the place where serious and silly complaints come to chat. And of course, we want to thank our guest, Jason Villiard. Jason, anything you want to say before we leave?
I want to say thank you guys very much for having me on here. Anytime you want to have somebody make an ass of themselves again publicly. You know, you talk about all those bad girlfriends I've had, and I got several of them who are going to be listening to this right now like, I'm so glad I got the husband I did now.
Well, they had that.
They all
voice.
sound like the
I
Wicked
think
Witch
you
of the
got
West.
off lucky too.
Well, thank you for making an ass out of yourself and shouldering that burden for us.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
No. We'll be bringing you new episodes every week, and we encourage everyone to participate by sending your gripes, grievances, and opinions to openmicgripe@gmail.com or tweet to us at openmicgripe. Openmicgripe is all one word.
And of course, we really hope you enjoyed this episode. And of course, if you didn't, check us out next week when we will be discussing your gripe.